By this point, it was clear that Barisma was code for the Bidens, because Giuliani was laying it out there. I could see why Colonel Vindman was alarmed, and he said, this is inappropriate, we're the National Security Council, we can't be involved in this.
I'm talking about the gas. I'm talking about the reason we're there. I've not heard this. Everybody, it's never discussed.
A newly revealed email from 2015 shows what Hunter Biden's, quote, ultimate purpose was with the Ukrainian company Barisma.
One of the reasons Hunter described what he was doing with Barisma as a patriotic, he was serving his country by making, 50 grand, 60 grand a month on the board of a Ukrainian private gas company. The main thing for people to understand is that free speech is caught in this proxy war between what I call the Blob.
It's kind of like a mass that keeps getting bigger and bigger.
The foreign policy establishment of the US, the UK, and NATO, when the Obama administration in its final years was frustrated with this entrenched, immutable, alien-like, all-powerful form within Washington that appeared to be more powerful than the White House itself. The State Department, USAID, the military pumped $5 billion into Ukrainian civil society to topple the democratically elected government of Ukraine. We pumped $5 billion into Ukraine, and we still couldn't budge anyone living in the eastern flank, anyone in Crimea, to side with our propaganda over Russian propaganda. So they brought to bear this very powerful censorship apparatus, really starting in 2014. These same Blob institutions created this architecture initially to stop Russian propaganda. NATO developed this doctrine called from tanks to tweets. Tweets are how people get elected. The biggest threat to NATO was that people would vote their way out of NATO or would vote to not give funds for foreign wars. That was a bigger threat than Russian aggression. So now they've escalated that, and they're putting pressure on countries like Brazil and regions like the EU. And all over 140 countries now, we have these counter-disinformation programs, which are purely designed to stop the rise of domestic populists who might challenge the foreign policy establishment. What the government does stretches its tentacles into the private sector and into civil society.
How exactly are we influencing all these other countries to jump on board with this?
A number of means. So,
do they know that we're influencing them?
I'll give you an example. Brazil. Brazil has this tyrant judge, de Moraes, right? This is the current war between Elon and this, the head of Brazil's censorship court. It's called the TSE. A lot of people see the actions of this one tyrant judge who basically has this ability to issue an edict, and then anything posted online becomes instantly criminal. Going after journalists, going after politicians, going after ordinary civilians by any edict. There's a whole censorship substructure to what de Moraes is involved in. The narrative network mapping. If they want to say anyone who challenges the results of Brazil's 2022 election, well, they need these outside institutions to create this whole narrative network map. These are US-funded and US-backed channel institutions who provide the entire substructure to the head of the snake. It's a Brazilian spider, but the spider web was laid by the US State Department, and the fangs of it are star-spangled spangs. This is the US the US State Department trying to take out its political opposition in Brazil This is something I think that a lot of conservatives who may be listening really need to process. This CIA, State Department, USAID military apparatus had the support of the Republican Party throughout the entire 20th century. All three wings of the Blob, the State Department, the CIA, and the Pentagon, all went down to Brazil to intermediate that election. Why is that in U.S. national interest? Why should truck drivers making $50K a year have to pay their income tax for electronic voting machines that the Brazilians didn't even ask for? What I'm describing is all the censorship that went into that and that happened in the aftermath as part of this transitional justice campaign to stop Bolsonaro's reemergence.
Who is the head of all of this? Where's
Well-
this all coming from?
Well, there's a peculiar government program